Do you agree or not? In cinema history, we can find a director with the same production level as Steven Spielberg does in his projects. Yet, we have enough talented directors with equivalent ambitions. However, they have their own fashion and directing styles. Some of them are chasing technological advancement and commercial success. Some directors are passionate about the physics of time and the philosophy of human beings. The others recover pure cinema by applying polished musical cues in their cinematography masterpieces. And finally, directors with just a straight interest in the crime genre. Of course, we will talk about these directors in our future videos, but today we will discuss the director who tried everything in the filmmaking industry. 1975 outside of the windows. 27 years old Steven Spielberg gets his first success with the release of Jaws. Of course, he made a few movies before, but his initial directing style or voice as a filmmaker was obtained right from Jaws. Meanwhile, running ahead, you might ask me, why is Spielberg so prominent director nowadays? By researching and learning his filmmaking style, I found 5 reasons that made him prominent. One second, why am I talking like that? Steven Spielberg creates unforgettable movies, and later in this episode, I will explain why, so no rush. He is prominent by making movies for every individual, generation, or nation without exclusion. To achieve this level of recognition, you should be confident enough to experiment and always be open to new challenges. He is surrounded by talented people. In every step of the filmmaking process, he has artists in the crew who know what they do. As a result, Spielberg might be the greatest filmmaker or director, though his business is pure teamwork. He has taste. Impossible to make a good movie if you don't have taste. Yet, you may have the vision, but how do you feel about a scene or script? Is it good enough? Does the idea or script worth adopting? How do you know if the editor is good or not? Is the composer great or not? Can I surely delegate my vision to DP, etc., etc., etc.? And finally, he doesn't stop improving. At the beginning of his career, he had ups and downs, but all his mistakes taught him to improve from craft to craft. Key findings in Spielberg's movies are the story, told around regular individuals situated in unusual circumstances, without external superpowers or talents. These helps viewers relate to the character. Nevertheless, empathy with those characters is strong enough so viewers subconsciously pose themselves into the character's position. For example, the movie Terminal with Tom Hanks. Most of you don't know, but this story happened in real life. Mehran Karimi Nasseri is an Iran refugee who lived at Charles de Gaulle Airport for 18 years after being exiled from his country. The story touched Steven and he decided to show the cinematic interpretation. Even if Spielberg is skilled at telling the story of one soul, he is also capable of working with kids. E.T., Extraterrestrial, Empire of the Sun, or Jurassic Park, all these movies uncover different kids' points of view. And lastly, in War Horse, he demonstrated the pain, love, and loyalty of a creature who died in thousands in the First World War. Alfred Hitchcock once said, "You can make a bad movie with a good script, but you can't make a good movie with a bad script." Despite being a great director, Spielberg only writes his movies occasionally. Usually, he guides the writer and delegates this job to them. Speaking of that, it doesn't mean Spielberg is a lousy writer. He's director at it first, and having talented people around is one of his duties. What better defines Spielberg in his movies? It's the scale of the set. Spielberg mastered the skill of doing a large-scale project, but was it like that all the time? In 1975, Jaws made a lot of money, but was that predictable or just a pure luck? The budget from $3.5 million was increased to $10 million, and the reason for that was only one person. Jaws is not considered a large-scale project, but it was shot in a large environment without proper preparation and assessment of the scale. That led to prolonged production time and expenses almost costing Steven's career. If you want to know more about this story, please check out the next episode of this season. In the making of Jaws, I explain in detail what's happened there. One thing to keep in mind: if the studio wants to do a large project, they primarily work with the director who has the relevant experience. But why? Due to the cost of the project. Nowadays, action movies use CGI technology. This helps to save some money. In addition, it's easy and cheaper to design a background digitally than build it with the hands of hundreds of technicians. But CGI was not the absolute cure in the 80s or 90s. More prominently, it entered life after Wachowski's Matrix. Now take a look. When you have a large enough, naturally-looking set and you pose a great actor or actress there, will it have a powerful effect on the viewer? Even James Cameron had to build real-size Titanic to stun the audience. So why do directors do that? To erase the border between screen and reality, call it immersion effect. Spielberg once said, "I'm more interested in someone who knows how to tell the story and might not know where to put the camera than someone who doesn't know how to tell a story but knows what to do with the camera." Back in 1970, cinematography technology was not advanced the way it does today. As a result, filmmakers had to find the perfect static shot or long take to make the sequence lucrative. However, if you look at Spielberg's cinematography style, you will see the pattern in his work. The first and the most important part in his cinematography is smooth camera movement. Spielberg insists that the viewer's comfort comes first. As a result, smooth camera narration is the key. However, the handheld camera appeared in Spielberg's movies in 1993, when Janusz Kaminski joined him in Schindler's List. The difference between a smooth camera narration and a handheld is profound and has distinct narrative style. For instance, while a smooth camera has a more theatrical presentation, the handheld camera has a documentary style, action-like or real-time presentation effect. This approach became Steven's signature look. It creates a sense of physical presence for the viewer in the scene. It's smooth in comparison to a handheld camera and aesthetically looks pleasant. Lastly, it makes the editor work easier as the long take already persecutes the principles of the storytelling. Speaking of mise-en-scène, Spielberg mastered that composition better than any other director. But more than that, his ability to combine planes in this composition, foreground, middle ground, and background. He widely uses these ground planes to convey the story. Why? First of all, it's a simple and best way to tell more information for the viewer in one shot without confusing the audience with multiple cuts between shots. Spielberg collaborated with multiple famous DPs who was able to transfer his vision onto the screen. Despite that, one cinematographer changed Spielberg's vision for good. Janusz became a lifelong collaborator for Spielberg, who easily delegates his vision to DP. In other words, Kaminski knows how to tell the story and where to put the camera. Bad editing can kill a movie, but a good one can create a masterpiece. This is because the editor keeps the rhythm of the film. With quick cuts, you lose the viewer, and with the prolonged, we get bored. But more than that, editor manipulates the viewer by creating tension or suspense. In Spielberg's career, he works with only one editor. Michael Kahn knows how to make creative montages and keep the movie's rhythm. Kahn's work is invisible and looks natural, even with artificial transitions between scenes. As a result, Steven never asks, does the movie look like a movie or not? Pure cinema is possible when the visual presentation is associated with music. Music can build tension or decrease it. It can create questions in the scene or find the answers. It can horrify you or make you cry. Music is the health of the cinema. That is how we can emotionally perceive the shot or scene. One of the most outstanding collaborations in cinema history is between Steven Spielberg and John Williams. Since Sugarland Express and most notably Jaws, it's hard to see Spielberg work without John. His talent to feel the scene with the emotion of music and transfer that perception to the audience is enormous. Spielberg is a master of the immersion effect. He easily erases the border between screen and reality. Without effort, he pushes the audience into the magic of cinema. How does he do that? He creates unusual circumstances around typical individuals, which makes the viewer feel the character's pain, fear, or other emotional sense. His team skillfully applies languages of cinema like music, editing, and cinematography to creatively convey the story. Finally, he never scares to experiment. That is why his movies are not similar, making Spielberg one of a kind.